Hello and welcome to day 5 of the Advent of Code. I'm half elf, half Santa today in some kind of weird hybrid. And we are continuing with the Advent of Code challenges. Yesterday was a bit of a flop towards the end, or went a little bit wrong. We're going to take a couple of minutes to talk about that. Then we're going to move on to day 5 challenge. It's quite late here today. Hoping to get day 5 done nice and quickly today. We made some big improvements to the code base yesterday, which will make everything a little bit easier going forwards. First, I'd just like to talk about where I got to yesterday and what the solution was, because I figured out a solution and it works. You'll notice that, where is it? Here, I now have 8 stars. Day 4 has 2 stars, so I've solved both parts. The answer I managed to get was correct. So we're just looking at a diff here, a differential between but the old solution and what the actual correct solution, or the solution that worked at least, was. And you can see that we're going through each scratch card and we were trying to keep a total of all the different copies. And I think that was kind of the thing that led to my confusion and led to my downfall. I was trying to use recursion, so I was trying to call a function. So I had this method called get scratch cards, and I was calling it from within itself. So I was saying get scratch cards, you get scratch cards, get scratch cards, get scratch cards. And I couldn't think of a way to not use that technique, but I was using it poorly. I even had to make this little method to like print out what level I was on, and in the console it was printing out like crazy. And I knew something was really wrong. So I moved over to this solution, and we'll have a little look at this in Visual Studio. I'm just gonna add these to my GitHub. There is a link in the description to my GitHub where all the code for this project will be. Let's just push that. Okay, let's go over to Visual Studio. So part 2, I started keeping all the copies of the scratch cards in the dictionary, and I've just got this method called add copies to dictionary, and what that was doing was it was doing a similar thing that I was trying to implement, but it just does it better. So we check whether our dictionary has our scratch card ID in it, and if it does, it increments how many copies are in it. If we've got no matching numbers, we just return the dictionary. Otherwise, we go through all of the next scratch cards and we add their copies to the dictionary. This actually turned out to be less code and a little bit more elegant, and it worked, and we got the correct answer. So that was fantastic. There were a couple of little errors that I got when I loaded this solution up. I think I was missing a bracket here, this final bracket. In fact, one of the things we could do is just press Control Dot on namespace, and we could convert to FileScope to namespace. And what that means is we just have less curly brackets. So I might start doing that as we go through the solution and use different classes like this. I can just Control Dot, convert to FileScope to namespace. I'm not going to go through everything right now and do all of that, but it just makes it easier having this declaration at the top rather than having everything surrounded in curly brackets. Just makes your code look a little bit nicer. Now, less curly brackets. One thing that I did have to change was this interface had to become public, not internal, and that is because we're using it outside of we're using iData importers outside of the project, and so we needed to make it public. Our program now looks like this, which is fantastic, and it is working. It's working really nicely. So we can literally just turn this off if we want to, and we won't import any data. And we'll solve, or we can just get rid of this one and put this one on, and all we have to do is change this number here, and it changes what day we're doing. So we're going to change to day 5, and we need to get our data. In fact, we need to see what our problem is. Okay, it's 2 minutes to 11 now. I want to have this solved within about half an hour. Let's see how we get on. So day 5, if you give a seed a fertilizer. Okay, good start. Need my reading glasses. Has to be done. Okay, you take the boat and find the gardener right where you were told he would be, managing a giant garden that looks more to you like a farm. A water source? Island is the water source. You point out that Snow Island isn't receiving any water. Oh, we had to stop the water because we ran out of sand to filter it with. Can't make snow with dirty water. Don't worry. I'm sure we'll get more sand soon. We only turned off the water a few days, weeks. Oh no. His face sinks into a look of horrified realization. I've been so busy making sure everyone here has food that I completely forgot to check why we stopped getting more sand. There's a ferry leaving soon that is headed over in that direction. It's much faster than your boat. Could you please go check it out? You barely have time to agree to this request when he brings up another. While you wait for the ferry, maybe you can help us with our food production problem, which is going to be what day 5 is all about, I imagine. The latest Island Almanac just arrived and we're having trouble making sense of it. The almanac, your puzzle input, lists all of the seeds that need to be planted. It also lists what type of soil to use with each kind of seed, what type of fertilizer to use with each kind of soil, what type of water to use with each kind of fertilizer, and so on. Every type of seed, soil, fertilizer, and so on is identified with a number, but the numbers are reused by each category. That is, soil 1, 2, 3, and fertilizer 1, 2, 3 aren't necessarily related to each other. Oh boy. Okay, so I've got seeds 79, 14, 55, and 13, and then there's some kind of mapping seed numbers to soil. Okay, let's have a look how that works. The almanac starts by listing which seeds need to be planted. Yep, so that's here right at the top. And then the rest of the almanac contains a list of maps which describe how to convert numbers from a source category into numbers in a destination category. That is, the section that starts with seed to soil map describes how to convert a seed number, which is the source, to a soil number, which is the destination. Okay. This lets the gardener and his team know which soil to use with which seeds, which water to use with which fertilizer, and so on. Rather than list every source number and its corresponding destination, one by one, the maps describe entire ranges of numbers that can be converted. Each line within a map contains 3 numbers: the destination range start, the source range start, and the range length. Consider again, this is a meaty one. Consider again the example seed to soil map. The first line has a destination range start of 50, a source range start of 98, and a range length of 2. Okay, so we're starting from seed number 98 and soil number 50. This line means that a source range starts at 98 and contains 2 values, 98 and 99. The destination range is the same length, but it starts at 50, so it's 2 values of 50 and 51. With this information, you know that the seed number 98 corresponds to soil number 50, and that the seed number 99 corresponds to soil number 51. The second line means that the source range starts at 50. Okay, so we've got 2 lines here, so we've got 2 different seed to soil mapping. So we're mapping seeds 98 and 99, and we're also mapping seeds 50 all the way up to 50 add 48, so from seeds 50 to 98. Or no, it would be to 97 because it includes 50 itself. Okay, we need to remember that. That could be a downfall. Okay, the second line, means that this corresponds to destination range. So seed number 53 corresponds to soil number 55. Any source numbers that aren't mapped correspond to the same destination number. So seed number 10 corresponds to soil number 10. So the entire list of seed numbers and their corresponding soil numbers look like this. With this map, you can look up the soil number required for each initial seed number. 79 is soil 81, seed 14 is soil 14, blah, 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 blah. The gardener and his team want to get started as soon as possible, so they'd like to know the closest location that needs a seed. Using these maps, find the lowest location number that corresponds to any of the initial seeds. To do this, you'll need to convert each seed number through other categories until you can find its corresponding location number. In this example, the corresponding types are seed 79 goes to soil 81, soil 81 goes to fertilizer 81, fertilizer 81 goes to water 81, water 81 goes to light 74, light 74 goes to temperature 78, temperature 78 goes to humidity 78, and humidity 78 goes to location 82. That repeats 4 times, and you've got 4 location numbers, and you pick the lowest one, which is 35. Okay, clear as mud. Reading glasses off. It is time to program. Let's grab our puzzle input. Let's copy this, and we're gonna pop it into our solution. So data, add new item text file. This is going to be day 5-1. Hello, day 5-1. Okay. And we're going to do two things. We're going to paste this in, but we're also going to remember to set the properties here. So we're going to right click properties. We're going to change the build action to content and the copy to output to copy always. And that will stop any issues in the future. Okay, we're just going to think about importing the data here. I kind of want to do all the mappings on the import side, and then I want to navigate the mappings on the solution side. It could lead to a huge amount of data in our database. In fact, that's a good point. We don't even have Rancher open. We don't even have our database online. So let's do that. I don't have Azure Data Studio open either. So let's get that. Go over to our containers. It should be fast asleep and we'll wake it up. It's just loading. It'll be here in a second. Hopefully. It's always doing sneaky stuff in the corner. It's always doing sneaky stuff. Don't know what it's doing. It's initializing apparently. Let's come out of containers. Okay, we might have to wait a second for that. That's annoying. It's stealing my momentum. I should have set this up beforehand. It's a rookie error. Kind of don't want to leave because I might forget it. It's not the end of the world if I forget it. Did that literally just stop then? It did as soon as I clicked away. Okay, let's start that container. Okay, our database is up and running. We can basically forget about that now. Okay, we've got lots of different maps here. So we go seed to soil, soil to fertilizer, fertilizer to water, water to light, light to temperature, temperature to humidity, humidity to location, and that's our map. Okay. I want to think about how we structure this data because we can make it quite easy for ourselves. Let's just get set up first of all. So let's grab ourselves a day 5 data importer. So we're going to add a new class. I'm going to call this day 5 data importer. This is going to be internal, isn't it? Yeah, and we're going to inherit both of these classes. Well, I guess, right, hang on. We can get rid of scratch card. We can get rid of day 4 puzzle. We can get rid of that because I've copied you. We're kind of inheriting from the base class and we are implementing this interface. It's complaining at me because I'm not actually implementing it right now, so I'm going to press Control dot, implement interface, and we're going to have our import statement. Okay, so import, we're going to have to do a few kind of standard things. So we're going to say var data equals get puzzle data from file. How does it know what file we're going to get? Well, we need to instantiate our base class, so we're going to say public day 5 data importer, and then we're going to say colon base, and we're going to pass in the day, which is 5, and then we'll do some brackets just to make it happy. Don't think we actually want to do anything other than that. Okay, so we got our data. It knows what day it is, what file to get because we pass in the 5. That's fine. So now we want to think about how we're actually going to go and parse that data. So I guess the first thing to do, let's just break it down into sections. The first thing is to grab our seeds. And this should be quite straightforward. So we're going to say that var seeds is data at position 0 dot replace. We're going to replace seeds colon space because that's what seeds with lowercase s, and we're going to replace that with maybe I'll say string.empty. Okay, so we're going to replace that just so we get that gone. We're then going to split it, so we're going to say dot split. You can see I'm putting methods on each method I'm calling. I'm like putting it on a new line just to make things nice and readable. We're going to split on the space character, and that means that we're going to get a nice array. of all of these seed numbers because there's a space between all of them. There's quite a few seeds. Not a huge amount, but quite a few. I'm sure I'll be later on I'll be like, oh, so many. So we've got our seeds there. Now we're going to go through all of our different mappings. Now, I think it might be worth having like a generic mapper, and then we just tell it what it's mapping, right? What its source is and what its destination is. I think that might be the best way to do this. So I'm gonna make a model, and I'm gonna make a new class, and the name is going to be the most difficult part of this. So let's go back to the puzzle. There. And I want to look for some terminology. Category mappings. It's very bleak, doesn't really say much. I think that kind of is what we need though, right? Category. Yeah. We're gonna call it category mapping. We can always rename it later. Category mapping. Okay. I'm gonna make a public class category mapping, and we are gonna that's gonna be a generic DB object. Probably. Pretty sure it will be. I don't know if it will be. We'll get onto whether it is or not later. It doesn't. We can always remove that. So what I want to do is I want to make this generic so that we can pass it any chunk of that data, and it can just do all the mappings for us, or one number to another. So first we need a constructor. I'm not going to put an empty constructor in because this might not end up being a database thing. We're going to expect, I'm going to try and keep things as generic as possible. I'm going to use an IEnumerable just because it's super generic. And we're going to expect an IEnumerable of string called raw data. And the way we're going to send this data in is it's going to be from here down to here. So every time we find a blank line, we then know that we've got to pass in everything between that blank line and the next blank line. Unless we get to the end of the file, then it will just be to the end of the file. And that will be passed into our category mapping. Let's pop that there and that there and that there. Let's just pin those three just so that we got them. Okay, so our raw data is going to come in. Now, how do we handle it? So the first thing we want to do is we want to know what the destination. I'm going to pop this on this side, just so that we've got a reference to it. So we want to know what the source is and what the destination is. I think what I should probably do is make an enumerable. I'm going to make an enumerable. This is still a new folder. Let's rename this. I couldn't rename it last time, so I was running the code for like an hour, and for no reason. I really shouldn't have done that. That's silly. We're going to call this helpers. I renamed the namespace, so that's fine. We've got a model folder inside our database. I'm also going to add a model folder just inside our general project. This is going to be for things that are non-database. And I'm going to add a, it's not going to be a class, it's going to be an enumerable, but this is the quickest way to just make it. We're going to call this like gardening category. Sure. And oh, let's come over here. That's fine. So this isn't going to be a class, it's going to be an internal enum. And we're going to have some different categories. So first of all, we have seed. It's going to be a capital letter, seed. Then we have, actually this needs to come over here because I need to see everything that we've got. So seed, then we get soil. Then we've got fertilizer. Then we've got water. Then we've got light. Then we've got temperature. And then we've got humidity. And then we've got location. Okay, so using an enum allows us essentially to avoid using strings when we're looking at things, and it kind of makes our code a lot more robust. So we'll see that in action shortly. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this line and we're going to need to parse it. So we're going to say var categories equals maybe do we need to, is IEnumerable actually useful here? Could we just pass it in as a list? I'm going to do list just to make our lives a lot easier so we don't have to mess around. Raw data at position 0, so the first thing is going to be something like this that tells us what kind of map it is. We're going to split that on a space, and then we're going to, oh, let's put that on a new line. Split that on a space. We're then going to choose the first thing in that array. So we split on the space, we split here, we end up with an array with this and an array with this. We're going to take this first thing and then we're going to split again on -2 dash, and that will give us humidity and location. That's both of our categories. We're then going to convert these to our gardening category. So we're going to say public gardening category source get set, private set, and we're going to duplicate that. We're going to have gardening category destination. Okay, so if I remember rightly, we can do something like enum.parse, and we can pass it the gardening category, and then we can give it category 0. And I should be able to say source equals enum.parse. Why are you unhappy? Inconsistent. Okay, let's just make this public for now. The point, I don't want to worry too much about access modifiers. So that's our source. We're going to duplicate that. Our destination is, so we're taking one thing, so like our humidity, that's our source, and we're going to our destination, which is, in this example, location. So location is the second thing, so that's going to be our destination. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to just check that this is working. So the way to do that is I'm literally just going to console.writeline, and I'm going to writeline source and destination. And what we're going to do is we're just going to pass in we're just going to pass in a literal line. So we're going to say actually one thing I want to do in our program, let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that, 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 that. Okay. In our program, I don't want to import all. I think I wrote a method yesterday that will allow us to import a specific day, import single day. Fantastic. So we can just import, we can just work with today, because I don't want to have to keep waiting for all the data to import while we're developing. I'm going to say var category equals new category mapping. Okay, right off the bat, I'm going to rename this to garden category mapping, just to make this more in line with the... This renamed it everywhere but where I told it to. That was weird. More in line with the actual puzzle, right? And we're going to pass it in just a particular line. Now, we're just going to cheese this for a second. So we're literally just going to say data at position 2, just so that we can see that this is working. I just want to get some output to the console to confirm that we're good. Of course, there was build errors. Cannot convert from string. Ah, yeah, okay, I did say that I would be passing it a array. How can I slice an array? Data dot actually that's a good point. I could say data.where line, this is so unnecessary, line dot contains, and then this is coming off, so I'm just going to drop this on the new line. Line dot contains seed dash 2 dash. Okay, no, none of the other little lines will contain that, so we're just going to get that one line. I'm then going to say dot to list, probably. To list. I need a bracket there. Data.where dot to list. Is there any way to make this look nice? No. Yes, there is. But I've not. Maybe that just needs to come back. Where? That'll do. Where line contains C2 dot to list, and then we'll pass that in. Okay, it's not pretty, but it's gonna get the job done. Okay, what I'm expecting is a 0 and a 1. Yeah, okay, it didn't like that. Requested value seed was not found. So that's good because it was passing in the word that we wanted, but the first letter needs capitalizing. So we just need to we either need to do that, or we could do the very easy thing of just dropping this to seed soil. If I just decapitalize those two, run it again, let's just see if it works. Yeah, it does work. Okay, so in that case, what we're going to do is we're just going to make these all lowercase, because I don't want to waste time having to like capitalize the first letter of these when I can of the data that's coming in, when I can just do this and it's sorted. Okay, so that's working. That's nice. Now, what's great about this is I can do something like if source equals gardening category dot seed, right? And then those two match up, and I don't need to worry about strings and is it uppercase, is it lowercase? It's all like contained within the enum. Okay, we've got our source, we've got our destination. Now what we need to do is create our map, and our map is going to be our it's essentially going to be a list. I think I'm going to get confused here because I think these are backwards, so I think this is the source and this is the destination. Let's just double check that. describes how to convert a seed number to a soil number. Da-da-da. Okay, yeah, the destination, then the source, then the range length. So what's really confusing about this is we start with the seed, which is the source, but its number is here. We then have the destination here, which is the soil. Its number is here, so it's a little bit backwards. So we just need to be mindful of that. We need to just loop through now all of the data, starting at position 1. So I'm going to say for, I think I can get away with a for each here. I don't think knowing where we are in this list is important. That might change, but category and categories is a good guess, Visual Studio, but it's not what we want. For line in raw data, the only issue with this is that we don't care about the first line. In raw data, I need like a slice. I don't know how to do a slice in C#. Let's have a look. Get range. What does get? Creates a shallow copy of a range of elements in the source list. I think that's what we want. So let's do get range 1. It needs 2, right? Index and count. Okay, so the count, the number of elements in the range. So it would be raw data dot count, but we are wanting to skip the first one, so we're going to -1. Okay, so that should be fine. Should be fine. Okay, we're going to go through each of these now. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say var. I don't want to call it data. What do I want to call it? Numbers. IDs equals line.split. Ugh, it knows me. I just love to split. Now what we need to do is we need to get our source number and our destination number. So we're going to have var source ID equals and then this is going to be the second thing in this list, so it's going to be like this column of data here. So it's going to be IDs at position 1, destination ID is going to be IDs at position 0, and then our actual count of numbers, destination ID, and then our count is going to be IDs at position 2. Cool. Now what we're going to do, we are going to use these to populate some kind of data structure. I'm not sure what the best data structure to populate here is. I'm thinking of going with a dictionary. So we want a method where we pass these 3 things in and it just does it for us. Okay, so we're going to pop that down here. We're going to say private, what is this called? Oh, it's mapping, isn't it? Let's say populate mappings. Private. We're going to return a, no, are we? I reckon we want a dictionary here. Dictionary. It's going to be of type integer, comma integer, because we're going to be mapping one number to another number. And it's going to be called mappings. Category mappings. Garden category. What's really annoying is I think I called this gardening category. Gardening category. I'm gonna have to stick to that. Gardening category mappings. Okay. We're going to do a private void. We're going to say populate mappings. we're going to expect three things. We're going to expect a integer source ID. I think they're integers. These look integery. I don't think we need something larger. We might find out in a second that we do, and that's okay. We can update everything. Int destination ID and int count. Okay, so we're going to say for, so source ID and destination ID need to be increasing as we go up. We need to bear that in mind. So we're going to say for I, var I equals 0, I is less than count, it knows. Now what we're going to do is we need to make sure that these are being incremented. Our gardening category mappings, category mapping. Have I got mapping? Oh, this is a garden category mapping class. Maybe this should just be called mappings then, because the class, yeah, this is kind of unnecessary. Let's call this mappings. Okay. Because when we access it, it will be garden category mapping dot mappings. It would make no sense to be garden category mappings dot garden category mapping dot garden category mappings. That would be silly. Okay, so we're going to say mappings dot add. We're going to add source ID. We're going to add destination ID. Kind of assuming here that these will all be unique. The puzzle made it sound like they would be, like there would be no overlaps. It didn't give any examples of the data if it did overlap, like whether you should ignore the thing that's trying to overlap or you should overlap. So I'm just going to assume if we hit an error here and it like bugs out, then we'll try and defend against that. At the moment, we're just going to leave it. Now source ID needs to add I, and destination ID needs to add I. Okay, so they're both going to be incrementing. They might both be different numbers. They might be different as they're incrementing up, but we're going to be adding the same amount to each of them. So let's imagine source ID is 2, destination is 8. Okay, so we map 2 to 8, and then we add 1 to both of them, and then we map 3 to 9. Then we add 1 to both of them, we map 4 to 10. But we're actually adding I, so we're not adding 1 to each of them each time. So if we had 2 and 8, we'd have 2 and 8. Then I would become 1. So we'd do 2 add 1 is 3. 8 add 1 is 9. So we'd map 3 to 9. And then we would go round the loop again. I would become 2. We'd do 2 add 2 is 4. 8 add 2 is 10. And then we map 4 to 10. Okay. We need to parse these as integers. So we're going to say int.parse. Yeah, let's just do it here. I was thinking about making another method to do this, but it doesn't make sense to do that. And yeah, it knows it's following the pattern. Cool. So then what we're going to do is we're going to say populate mappings, and we're going to pass in those 3 things. If you name things well enough, it can like guess like a freakish amount of stuff that you want to do. Mapping, non-nullable mapping. Okay, yeah, fine. So we need to actually instantiate mappings as a new dictionary. So we're going to do that up here. So we're just going to say mappings is equal to a new dictionary of int. Okay. This will populate our mappings. So we now have a dictionary where we've got all of the mappings for this particular category, right? So we can just throw data at this now, and we can populate all of these. This isn't very database friendly though, because this is in a dictionary format. I'm not sure what the best way to... I don't know enough about Entity Framework to know how to put this into the database, which is kind of awkward. I think one thing I could do is if we ignored mappings, we just need like a little object pair. Unless this dealt with... No, the importer needs to deal with that. Unless this just put these three numbers and what their mapping was in. That might be useful. And then we could take this logic and put it elsewhere. So let's do that. We're going to keep all of this because this is useful. But what we're going to do is we're going to make a really simple model. So we're going to go to database, model. Garden category mapping is going to come out of here. In fact, we could move this now. If I right click on it, I should be able to say refactor. No, I can't. That would be too easy. Come on, code cleanup? No. Maybe that's a plugin that I use at work that I'm expecting to be there. Okay, that's not useful. That's not useful at all. Why can't I just move this? Okay, it's not really being used by anything, so if I do move it, it's not the end of the world. I will just need to make sure I change this namespace. So we're going to drag this into model down here. Okay. Adjust. Oh, it's going to do it for us. Okay, great. Fab. Okay, there's nothing to worry about. So we're going to leave that. We're going to come over here. We're going to add a new class. I kind of want to call this garden category mapping as well. This is awkward. I'm going to call this a raw garden mapping. I'm not happy with that, but it'll do. We're just going to make this a generic DB model, and we're just going to give this a few things. So the first thing it needs is its category, and the category is going to just be this string here, seed to soil or whatever to whatever. So we're going to have a public raw garden mapping, and we just need an empty constructor, I think. Then we're going to have a public string. What did I say it was going to be? Category. Category get set. Then we're going to have, I don't know why I duplicated that so many times. We're going to have 3 integers. First one is going to be called source. Second one is going to be called destination. And the third one is going to be called count. Cool. So we've got our database model. We need to add that to our database. So we're going to come over here. We're going to make a day 5. This is going to be a, what did I call it? A raw garden mapping. Lovely. Down here, we're going to configure the ID. So we're just going to duplicate this, and we're going to add our raw garden mapping here. We don't need to do anything else to our DB context. That's absolutely fine. One thing I want to do here is I want to say importing day, and then I want to put in what day it's importing. This is way off topic, but when you run this for multiple days, it's just like importing, finished, and you can't see what actual day it's doing. So yeah, I don't know whether I want the finish or not. We'll leave it there for now. I'm getting sidetracked. So we've got our raw garden mapping. So now what we need to do is we need to convert everything in this file into garden mappings. We also need seeds. We need to maintain the seeds somehow. Maybe I need seed as well. I think I need a seed as well. Let's add a seed. I'm just gonna call this. I'm just gonna call this seed. Public. We're gonna say public seed, and we're going to. We're literally just gonna say ID. So we're gonna. This is a generic DB. Oh, this is a generic. Okay, that's if we say seed, that's gonna clash with our generic DB model's ID. So we're gonna say seed ID. No, I don't like that. What does it say right at the top? Identified with a number. Okay, that's not very helpful. We're going to say public int identifier get set. And we are going to jump into... Where are we going to jump into? We're going to jump into our database context. We're going to duplicate this, and we're just going to make a little database to hold our seeds. So we're just going to call this seeds, and we're going to duplicate this seed. Okay, so now we are storing our raw garden mappings and our seeds in two separate tables. Seeds will be quite small. It's not holding that much data. So here we've got all of our seeds, so I'm just going to actually import all of our seeds here. So I'm going to say for each of our seeds. Oh god, no, this is going to be I'm going to call this seed ID. We need to open, so we're going to say using var db context equals new AOC 2023 db context. We're going to say db context dot seeds dot add new seed, and we're going to pass in seed ID. Cool. It might be nullable, yep, sure. So we're going to put a question mark there. That's going to add in all our seeds to the database. Then we need to add in our the rest of our data. So what I want to do is I want to loop through our data. So we're going to say for we're going to say for var line in raw, not raw, just data, in data. We're going to do the thing that we did in the other thing. You know, the thing we did in the thing. We're going to do that. What did we do in the thing? We're going to, it was like copy, clone. It was something around here. First, I remember seeing first, group, note, get value, initialize, join. What was it? What was it in here? Get range. Data.get range. Do we not have get range? Why don't we have get range? It's a string array. Okay. Data.toList.get range. Problem solved. And we want to get range from position 1 all the way up to data.length -1. That's a perfect for loop. I don't know what you're talking about. That's textbook. That is nothing wrong with that. This 4 is unhappy. 4 each expected. Yeah, no, fair. You're absolutely right there. So we're going to start here. We're going to say if line equals string.empty, then we're just going to continue. We're just going to go on to the next line. We're going to say if line.contains 2, like that, then what we want to do is we want to set our category. So our category at the moment is going to be nothing. I'm a dingus. I didn't actually write a constructor that would take an ID and set the identifier as it. And I need to do that in the other class as well. Equals ID. Ooh. I might just do a string version of this as well. So I'm going to do another constructor, and I'm going to say string ID, and I'm just going to say int.parse ID, and that just means that we don't have to worry about doing that elsewhere. Okay. That's fine. So C's happy. Now we're going to go over to garden category. No, not garden category. Raw garden mapping. We're going to duplicate that. We're going to expect string category. I'm just gonna parse them all in here. So I'm just going to say string source, string destination, and string count. And what we're going to do is we're just going to map all of those values nice and quickly. So we're going to say category, not calibration value, category equals category. We're going to say source equals int.parse, because we want it to be an integer source. We're going to say destination equals int.parse destination. And we're going to say count equals int.parse count. Cool. So that's going to populate all the data in here. So then over in our importer, we come here. If line contains 2, then we're going to set our category. So var category equals string.empty to begin with. No, not format, empty. Okay, if it contains 2, then our category is equal to line.split onto almost on 2. No, not on 2. On space. Okay, so we want to know we want something to something. In this raw garden mapping, I kind of... Okay, we're going to call this... We're going to call this source category, and we're going to use our gardening category. And we're going to have a destination category. And then we're going to say we're going to expect that in here, right? So we're going to expect the string of source category, and we're going to expect the string of destination category. That's going off the screen. That's okay. Then, oh, I misspelled that. Source category. Then we're going to say that our source category equals enum.parse garden name category, and we're going to pass in source category. we're going to duplicate that, and we're going to say destination category equals that, and we're going to pass in destination category. Okay. So now our data's in good shape. That will go in and out of the database absolutely fine, and our data's like coming out in a really nice format. So here we're going to split on the space. Then we're going to split on 2. No, sorry. We're gonna. That's just our I guess our mapping. Let's call that mapping. Have I used mapping somewhere else? That word could apply to so much here. Okay, so if our line contains 2, then we need to update our mapping. Okay, so our mapping, we're going to split this line, and we're just going to take the first thing, which is something to something. Then what we're going to do is continue. So once we've updated that, we're just going to say continue. This just means that we can have like code below. We don't have to have like else blocks and stuff like that. We're now going to deal with the case. So we've got 3 different cases, right? We've got a case where it's an empty line, we've got a case where it's a category, and then we've got a case where we've got 3 numbers. So in that case, we're going to say numbers, var numbers equals, and then we're going to split our line. So we're going to say line.split on the space. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to make our new model. So we want to, I feel like this is lazy. This is annoying me that I'm not splitting seed and soil. So we're going to say source category equals string.empty, and we're going to say destination category equals string.empty. We're then going to say var mapping equals line.split. Then we're going to say source category equals mapping.split. I don't really need to do that. I can do that here. Dot split on that. Grab that. Split on the 2. Then we've just got 2 words, the source and destination. So source will be mapping 0. And destination category will be mapping 1. Okay, so we've always got those. They're just calculated whenever the time comes. We're going to update them with the new version. Okay, if we get down to numbers, then we're going to split these numbers. We're then going to take each number, and we need to make sure we get this right because they're in an awkward order. In fact, I've done this already over here. Let's grab this. I called it IDs, fine. I'm parsing them here. And I'm parsing them here. Goodness sakes, where do I not parse them? Let's just pass them in as strings here, I guess. So source ID. So source ID, crucially, is the second one, even though it should be the first one. That's fine. Count equals IDs. It's not IDs, it's numbers. Let's rename this to IDs. Be easier. Okay. Then what we're going to say, we've already got our DB context. So we're going to say DB context dot. Actually, one thing I do want to do, once we've added our seeds, we're just going to save our changes. DB context dot save changes. Save there, and then we can move on. And we can do another save down here. I'm going to get rid of this because that's not helpful anymore. Oh, didn't want to get rid of that though. And we could actually just pop that in here. DB context dot save changes. Why does it put a space there? DB context dot day5 dot add. Day 5 needs a question mark probably. dot add, and we're going to say new raw garden mapping. We're going to pass in source category. We're going to pass in, can I do it all in one line? Will it all fit? Destination category, source ID, destination ID, and count. Almost, Visual Studio. You almost got it right. Destination ID and count. Cool. That will add our mapping, and we'll know what category it should come from, what category it should go to. So then when we come to actually solving the problem and like populating our maps, it's really easy to know what is what. So we've got all of that. That's our import step. That took me way longer. It took me like an hour. That's shameful. Here, this will actually be a lot easier now. Let's just make sure this actually gets into the database. So we're going to run this. Importing day 5. Good. It's actually telling me what day. Cool. Remember how I said that an int might be too small? It is. Everything needs to be a long. Fine. Long. I'm just going to copy long. I'm just going to replace every instance of integer. We're going to come over to raw garden mapping. We're going to do a control F on int, and we are going to replace that with long. Replace all. Okay. That didn't change any words that had int in it, which is good. Where's our importer? Is it run away? 5 importer. Seed ID. Is seeds? This is yeah. Okay. This is parsing. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So come down here. Then we're doing the parsing in the raw garden mapping. So actually none of this works with an integer. It's just this, which I converted to longs. So that should work. It should be happy, but it's not. Fertilizer. Ah, I've got to spell like an American. Okay. Fertilizer. Let's try again. Here we go. Finished. Okay, lovely. Let's jump into our database. Let's have a look. First off, I want to see seeds. I want to see them seeds. Okay, we've got 20 seeds there. That looks about right. 515949. Let's just check. 545949. 515. I said 545949. Okay, yeah. So we've got all of our seeds. That's good. And then let's jump in and see our not gear ratios. Day 5. Source category. So can you see how there's zeros and ones? So that's because in our enum, the very first thing was seed. So that's the actual value that is just a 0. The next thing is soil. So it's a 1. Then down here, we've now changed mapping. We're actually mapping soil to something else, fertilizer, I think, or something like that. So that's worked nicely. We've got all of our source, destination, and count. So this is in a nice usable format now. So now we can actually start solving the problem. Okay, this is going to need reworking, but first of all what we need to do is create ourselves a day 5 puzzle. So the database size is done, which is a blooming relief. It's only been an hour. Day 5 puzzle.cs. Cool. I'm going to add that. Now this has to be an iPuzzle day, which implements 2 methods. We're going to return an empty string. I'm going to put $, and curly braces inside it preemptively, and I'm going to do the same here. See, it might not like that. Yeah, expected expression. just do that. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go over to our program and we're going to stop importing our day and we're going to start solving our day. We're not going to solve all, we're just going to solve, like, what did I call it? Dot solve single day? Yes, dot solve single day. So it's going to solve day 5. Fine. So if I run this, I should just get blank blank. Lovely. Okay, we're golden. So solve part 1. The first thing we need to do is crack open the database. So we are going to say, what are we going to say? What are we going to say? We're going to say using var db context equals new AOC db context. We are going to then, what we're going to do with that context, we're going to grab our, I guess we want our seeds. So I'm going to say var seeds equals dbcontext.seeds.tolist. Seeds are kind of the last thing that we need to do. The first thing we need to do is establish all of our mappings. Now we started looking at this garden category mapping. But we're not actually going to need to pass it any data because actually we've done all the data steps. So I kind of just want to delete all of that. That can go. We don't need to, actually we do need to hold on to the source and destination. Do we though? Do we? Yeah, it doesn't hurt to hold on to them. But then this needs... I reckon we don't. I reckon we use this in a dictionary, and that dictionary identifies what this is. So we're just going to say mappings equals new dictionary. Okay, populate mappings. We give it a source ID, a destination ID, an account, and it adds all of the mappings. Okay, so that's lovely. What we're going to do is we are going to say, we're going to grab all of our mappings. So I'm going to say var mappings equals new, not new, equals db context dot day 5 dot to list. That needs a question mark because it could be null, even though it's definitely not null. We're going to go through every mapping. So I'm going to say for each var map in mappings. And we are going to want to we're going to want a dictionary. So we're going to want a we're going to call this mapping data. And we're going to call this var mappings. And this is going to be a dictionary of, and it's going to be a gardening category, I've used the word gardening category too much, to a garden category mapping. Clear as mud. It's not happy with that. Non-invocable member dictionary TKT value cannot be used like a method. I missed something? This is classic dictionary. This is a bad color. I don't know. Is this public? This is public. Let's just change this namespace while we're here. Garden category mapping. This is no longer a generic DB model. Oh right, I've not put new. Duh. Okay, new dictionary. So it's gonna have a gardening category. It's gonna map to a garden category mapping. So the gardening category is going to be the destination of any map that we pull out. Okay, so for instance, in seed to soil, this key that we're going to use in our dictionary, soil is going to be the key. So we're going to say if mappings dot contains key, map dot destination dot destination category. If it contains the key, then we don't need to make a new garden category mapping. So if it doesn't, I'm going to put an exclamation mark there. If it doesn't contain the key, then what we're going to say is mappings at position map dot destination category equals new garden category mapping. Cool. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say same thing again, really. We're just going to grab this and we're going to say dot. I made this private, didn't I? Yep. We're going to rename this to add mappings. Add mapping, and we're going to make this public. So over here, we're going to say dot add mapping, and it's going to expect three things: source, destination, and account. So we can say map dot source, map dot destination, and map dot count, and it's all just there for us because we prepared the data earlier. Sure enough, this is expecting integers, but we need to work with long, so I'm going to do Control F, look for int, and replace with long. It's highlighted all the ints. There's nothing in a word or anything, so I'm just going to replace them all. Okay. Cool. Is this saying that this might be null? We know it's not null because we populated the database, so I'm just going to put an exclamation mark there. Cool. So we've now added all the mappings to all of our categories. So now what we need to do is we need to take our seed and we need to take it through all of those mappings. So we're going to say for each var seed in seeds. Now we need to traverse this mapping. We know that we need to go to soil, so var destination equals, how do we know what the next one is? How do we know what the next one is? How do we know? I don't think I've kept a record of this. So we've got a dictionary with our gardening category, which is our destination, and what we've got is our source. But how do we know what's next to go to? I guess we could just cheese? Could we cheese an enum? Because the enum is technically in order. This is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because all I'm thinking is we're gonna need to go through the categories to get there. So I was gonna say our destination is gardening category dot soil, right? So that's where we want to go, and we would say something like while destination does not equal gardening category dot location, then we're gonna jump through our mappings. So let's say something like var id equals. I'm going to do this. I don't think this is. I think we're going to need to add some extra stuff, but I'm just going to kind of flesh out this logic. Destination. Okay, so we want mappings destination dot. Let's write a method and let's call it get. Right, public in long get mapping, and we're going to expect a long source. We're going to say get destination mapping. Okay, so we're going to say if mappings dot contains key. So no. Wait an hour. Thanks, Windows. It really wants to upgrade to Windows 11. If mappings dot contains key source. If it doesn't contain source, if it's not in there, then what we need to do is just return the source. Because in the case where it's not been mapped, it's just that number. Why are you unhappy? Oh, okay, sure. Otherwise, we want to return mappings source. Cool. No, I don't want to duplicate that. Okay, so then we're going to come up here. We're going to say var id equals mappings at destination dot get destination mapping, and we're going to pass it our ID. So we are going to say our var source ID equals seed, and we're going to pass in source ID. Okay, now how do we change destination? Because then we want to go up through the destinations. So we've got our mapping. This this kind of wants to be source ID, right? Source ID is equal to get destination mapping, because that becomes the new source. Source ID is model.seed to long. Oh, okay, right. This needs to be seed dot identifier. Cool. So we need a way of getting the next destination, the next in an enum sequence. So if I said something like enum dot, can I parse? Converts the span of characters of the name or numeric value of one or more enumerated constants to an equivalent enumerated object. Okay, let's do parse. Enum.parse, we're gonna give it it's going to be a gardening category. Sorry, my mind just went blank then. Okay, we've got some overrides here, so we should be able to pass it a integer. Ooh, yeesh, it's not looking good. What if I just did 4? Is it happy with that? No, it's not, is it? Okay. So it's not parse. Let's try enum dot maybe I'm just using the wrong. Does this say all numeric value? It does say, okay. Maybe you're not. Do. Maybe I can just do like gardening category 4, and I could say like var x equals gardening category 4, and it would convert that. I reckon that would do it. Okay, so we're gonna say var counter equals 1 for soil, and then we're gonna say counter plus plus, and then we're gonna say destination equals gardening category of counter, and so that will count that, convert that integer into a gardening category. So if it starts at 1, when we add 1 to it, when we increment it to 2, 0, 1, 2, that will then be fertilizer, and then we will jump into the fertilizer mappings. Get a destination mapping, we'll get a destination. Once our destination is location, I think we're golden. These are always I just need to figure out, I just need to get it straight in my mind how I've done this, because I think we're almost there. So for var map in mapping data, map.destination category equals new garden category mapping. So the very last thing we need to do once we've got our location is then we're going to, so when our destination is gardening category dot location, we're then going to do var location equals mappings gardening category dot location dot get destination mapping source ID. Oh, what did I do? Oh, I did a control F thing. Source ID. So source ID would have been updated here. So this will be the final source ID. This while loop will break. We'll then get our final mapping, and then we will say we'll have a array up here, var list, not list, var locations equals new list of long. Seeds will not be null there. We're going to say locations dot add location, and then we are going to return locations dot min. In fact, we're not going to do quite that. We're going to do, I'm just going to cut that. I'm going to do dollar, speech marks, curly brackets. I'm going to paste that in. Okay, let's see if this does anything. Written a lot of code, not run a lot of code. Let's see if A, this actually does something within a reasonable time frame. B, we get some kind of reasonable answer. Okay, memory is jumping up. My biggest concern is that we hit this while loop and never come out of it. That is my biggest concern. In fact, what I'm going to do, this has already been running for like 30 seconds, and it's taking up quite a lot of memory. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to console.writeLine, just a little debug line each time we go through here, just so that I can see that this is going. So I'm going to do dollar speech marks. We're going to say seed. I'll say seed dot identifier, and I'm going to say destination, and we're going to have our destination. It could just be doing it under the hood, but I just want to see that it is doing something before we start waiting for it for ages, which is what happened yesterday, and then it wasn't actually working. So we could be in this stage here right now, I guess. Mapping. I guess there's quite a lot of mappings to add. Maybe I'm doing this in like a really verbose way. I wonder whether just having this like these massive dictionaries, because these are all long ints as well, so these are quite big ranges of numbers. I didn't really think about that in terms of this program, like how it should handle the size of the numbers. But ah well. We will press on. No way are we in gigabytes. That is not 72 gigabytes. Oh my goodness. What have I done? This is too much. This is too much. I guess I've kind of taken a naturally brute force kind of way of doing this. We've not even hit this bit. I reckon this bit will be quite quick once we've got the data created. There's so much mapping data that it's having to do. I reckon that it's probably hitting a limit. So this has been running for 2 minutes now. We don't really know what it's doing. I don't really know how fast this is going either. I pressed X and it's not closed. That's never a good sign. I'm going to press stop here. We're going to put some console.logging in here as well. We're just going to see what's happening. So I'm going to say console.writeLine, and we're going to pop in what are we going to pop in? I guess we could just say map.destination category. Yeah, that seems reasonable. Map.destination category. Okay. So we should just get a big, there we go, soil. Soil, okay. Oh no, that takes so long. I was expecting it to be like down the console. We've done 2 lines of soil. I've approached. Okay. we can't be doing it like this. We can't be populating the data like this. So I need to stop this. So this is balked, this bit here. Okay, we can't add a mapping like this because it's having to add so many numbers to this dictionary that like a computer that is built to work with numbers is actually failing. So this is bad. This is bad, not good. And we need to stop doing this, and we need to think about how we are checking whether it falls within a range or not, right? So I guess what we want to do is we could... So our destination is soil, okay? While destination does not equal gardening category.location, we want to find what the source ID is, okay? Now, the source ID I'm trying to think about this in terms of the database objects. So, database objects are... Where are they? They are here. Raw garden mapping. Why did I do that? That was weird. Okay. Raw garden mapping. Let's pop you over here. So it knows its source, it knows its destination, and it knows its IDs, and it knows its count. So in our puzzle, I'm going to just comment this out. I don't want to forget to do that. We've got our mapping data. We're going to say mapping data dot where model dot destination category is equal to destination. I'm running out of screen space here. Let's move that in. Let's move that across. Okay. Mapping data. So we're going to say var something. I don't know what this represents yet. I'm just going to use x. Var x equals mapping data. Mapping data could be null, so we're going to put a question mark there. Where destination category equals destination. Okay. Dot where model and then we want the source ID to be greater than or equal to model.source, and we want the source ID and source ID is less than and has to be less than model.source add model.count. Okay, so if our source ID falls within that range, then we know there's a mapping for it. That's going to return a existing mapping, and we're going to say if existing mapping dot any. If it contains anything, if it doesn't contain anything, why are you unhappy? I'm going to put an exclamation mark there, and that's going to solve all my problems. It thinks mapping data could be null. We know it's not null because we know we've got data in the DB context. So if existing mapping doesn't have anything, then continue, right? Source ID just stays the same. Otherwise, we need to work out what our mapping is. So if our source ID is within that, then what we want to do, so let's imagine where we had 2 as our source and 8 as our destination, right? And so before that we'd have 1 and 7. After that, we'd have 3 and 9. Visual Studio is trying to predict what I'm doing. It doesn't really know. Okay, so I know that it starts at 1, the source, and it's got a count of 3. Okay, and I know that mine's in here. Now, if I know what the destination starts at, and I know how far away from this my source is, then I can use that to manipulate this, right? So if my source is 3, I can do 3 minus 1 gives me 2. And if I add 2 to 7, it gets me 9. So that gets me the correct thing. So I don't need to do any crazy loops or anything. I can just do some maths. Let's check that that works with higher values. So let's do 6, 10. Yeah, you've got it, Visual Studio. Oh, I don't want... this is not a very nice way of mapping this data out. I'm just using this to think. So if our value is 5 and we start at 1, we do 5 minus 1, which is 4. Actually, screw it. Let's do 2. Let's start at 2. We start at 2. We do 5 minus 2, which is 3. And then we do 8 add 3, which is 11. And that gets us our mapping. Okay. So, how does this relate to anything? So, if we do our source ID minus, okay, right, so we need to grab our mapping. So I'm going to say var mapping equals existing mapping position 0. Okay, there should only be one. So if we don't have anything, we don't change it. Otherwise, we just take the first thing that was returned from this query. Source ID minus mapping dot source. Why aren't you... Okay, maybe it's because we've got all of this stuff on the screen. Let's get rid of this. Let's say var source ID equals not var, source ID equals I want this to be var difference equals source ID minus mapping source. Mapping.source. Yep, that makes sense because that's the lower number in my example. if mapping.source is the same as source ID, we'll get 0, which means that we won't add anything on and we'll get the mapping. We're going to say source ID. I forgot to put a semicolon there, and Visual Studio is just going crazy. Source ID equals mapping.destination. Why aren't you happy with this? Destination add difference. IEnumerable raw garden mapping. Oh, okay, right. Let's just dot to list this. Okay, so now we've worked out our source ID in a different and more efficient way. Let me add a counter. I'm just going to comment this out for a second. While destination once it does equal that, we still kind of want to do this, right? We want to do this one more time. So kind of just want to do counter while counter is less than or equal to int of garden category.location. Perfect code. It gets the job done. I'm going to change the destination there. Does this actually get used? Yeah, it does in here. Cool. Okay, we don't need this. Once we come out of the loop, we're going to say locations.add source ID. Then we're going to give the smallest location. This will run a lot faster. He says. This should run a lot faster because we're no longer populating huge lists of numbers. We've worked around that. We are having to do this where stuff, which should be pretty performant. But we'll find out. I'm not still doing something silly somewhere else, am I? One reference. Where's that one reference? No, it's gone. Okay, that's fine. You still doing something? Yeah. So actually, I've got rid of the whole concept of a garden category mapping, haven't I? Yeah. This class is just unused now. That's fine. Okay, it's still taking a while. I'm going to turn on some logging, just see how fast we're getting through this. Destination. Is this just printed out weird? Let's try that again. Why is all of that on one line? That's not good. So this is doing the seed. It gets to location. It prints out the destination as 8. Okay, yeah, and then it stops the loop. And then we go, we never reset the counter. Okay, yeah, we never reset the counter. So yeah, we do. We come back up here. We set the counter to 1. Then it becomes fertilizer. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Then water. It's weird. It's doing this weird, like, thing here where it's It's just printing these out. I don't get that. I don't get why they're all on one line. I don't know if it's just the console being strange. I'm going to make this full screen. I'm going to close it in the hope that it comes back full screen. No, why would it? Can I click the square quick enough? Yeah, I can. Okay. Some weird bug. Okay, so it's getting to water and then it's taking a hot while. Now the only way it would be, the only place it would be getting stuck is here. And to prove that, I'm just going to say console.writeLine filtering, and then I'm going to put a finished filtering down here. And it's not, is that, yeah, it's still on water. Okay. I've got a semicolon. Okay, so it looks like we are stuck in potentially an infinite loop. How many times should I be expecting to see this? 7 times? Okay, we saw that way more than 7. So while counter is less than or equal to the integer version of gardening category.location. Once it's out of this, we add our source ID to the locations. And we come back up to the top, we choose a new seed. So let's pop the counter in here. And let's just see what's happening to our counter value. So there could be something going wrong with that. So look, it's stuck on 3. Okay. It's stuck on 3 because we're not actually incrementing the counter. When is the counter used? Okay, so if anything, what I want, this is such a dumb little issue. What I want is I want this if there is anything. So in fact, my little clever continue block is actually a dumb continue block. I don't want to exit this loop without increasing the counter. So confident that I'm going to get rid of these console write lines. I'm going to play. Now it won't get stuck in infinite loop. There we go. We get our answer straight away. Oh, please let me go to sleep. Let me. So happy. Oh, so happy we did that. Okay, that was a massive learning curve. That was a massive learning curve. Everyone will starve. Part 2. Everyone will starve if you only plant such a small number of seeds. Rereading the almanac, it looks like the seeds line actually describes ranges of seeds numbers. The The values on the initial seeds line come in pairs. Within each pair, the first value is the start of the range and the second value is the length of the range. So in the first line of the example above, 79, 14, 55, 13, this line describes 2 ranges of seed numbers. First range starts with 79, contains 14 values. Oh, okay, 55 contains 13 values. Now rather than considering 4 seed numbers, you need to consider a total of 27 seed numbers. Okay, that's not so bad actually. That's not so bad at all. Right, let's delete dead code. Here we go. We're going to solve this in 5 minutes. It's quarter to 1 in the morning. Right, delete dead code. Delete, delete, delete. Okay, this is part 1. Now. Is this going to be a horrific amount of seeds if we were just to expand it? These are huge numbers, aren't they? There's no way around it, I don't think. I surely don't think. Okay. Okay, let's just copy everything. Paste it into part 2. So the only thing that's changing is our seeds. Once we've got all of the seeds that we need, we can then pass them in. My concern with that is that if we were to get, like, what's this? 87 million seed numbers for the first one, and then the second one needs 503 million. Could be a long time. But there are only 20 seeds, which means only 10 ranges. But you saw how slow it was even for like the first 2 soil seeds when we were doing it inefficiently earlier. That was 16 million and 95 million. That was 100 million records, and that was taking it ages. There's got to be a better way. For each var seed in seeds. Kind of just want to wrap this in a for loop. So I was so confident this would be quick. I don't know if it will. Right, first thing I want to do is I want to see whether we can seeds are DB objects and they have an ID. Right, here's an idea. Seeds start at 1. So if it's odd, it's a seed number, and if it's even, it's a range. It's like a count, right? So we could do something like seeds dot to list dot where seed dot id mod 2 equals 1. That means it's odd. That doesn't, no. I'm trying to do it in like a chain of things. Okay, let's just do a loop. So we're going to loop through seeds. I'm going to say for var I equals 0, I is less than seeds dot length count, I plus equals 2. We're going to say we need like I'm just going to call this raw seeds for lack of a better word, and we are going to say var seeds equals new list of long. This this feels like we could use the database. We could populate it at import time, and then we'd only ever need to run that once, and then we could just pull them all from the database. It'd be a heck of a lot of data to store locally, though. It's a heck of a lot of memory to use. Trade-off either way, I guess. Right, so we're going to say what we're going to say. We're going to say for var j equals raw seeds I. J is less than raw seeds I plus raw seeds I plus 1. Does it want to be less than or less than or equal to? It wants to go, I think it wants to go up to. Let's just check that in here. 79 to 14. So it goes up to 92. Starting at 79. Okay, sure. So we want to be less than. Raw seeds add 1. And then we're going to say j plus plus. And then we're just going to chuck this in an array, in the array. So we're going to say seeds.add j. This loop is not happy. Why aren't you happy? Seed and seed. Okay, sure enough. Sure enough. So raw seeds I dot identifier. Raw seeds I dot identifier. Add raw seeds I plus 1 dot identifier. Sure. Perfect. Seeds dot add. This can only take what? A couple of seconds. If this does work, everything else should fly. Why are you unhappy? Long thread and fire. You should be happy. Am I just missing a semicolon somewhere? Let's run this. Is it still going to be? But you ran up here. Seed.identifier for seed and seeds. Seeds. Okay. Yep. Sure enough. That's a good point, actually. Seed.identifier doesn't exist anymore because this is a list of integers now, of longs even. Cool. Let's run this. Calculates part 1 very quickly. The way I've done this, it might take too long to do part 2. There's only 10 seeds. In fact, it would have been nice if I printed out each seed to the console. If I did like console.writeLine. I could do like seed and then I, and then we can just see the progress that it's making. So let's rerun that. I know it kind of seems counterintuitive because you're kind of wasting time. See, it did the first 2 quite quickly. We've only got 8 more to go. This is good. This is good. Memory is jumping up quite considerably. 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. This is going to hit an error in a second. It's going to try and do something that it shouldn't. Or is it? No, it probably won't. This last one it's just getting a little bit hung up on. I'd be annoyed if it crashed out now. We're doing I plus equals 2, so I think we should be fine. This is the very last one. I don't know whether... it's actually imported them all. Now it's just running through all the seeds. So it's not actually hung here anymore, I don't think. I think it's come down here. There's just a heck of a lot of seeds. That we've populated. This is incredibly inefficient. It's at a time in the evening where I can't think of a way where we could make this like range of numbers work for us. I guess this is what this whole challenge is about, right? It's about working with different ranges of numbers, seeing whether one range falls within another. But we need to check each seed itself against each thing. I don't know. There's got to be a mathsy way of doing this, like an intelligent way. I just don't know what that is. Because we've got a heck ton of seeds to get through. And we wrote a very efficient part one. Part one runs very, very quickly. And I noticed the inefficiency and I fixed that. Part two is very slow because we've just got so much input data, which I guess means that this isn't particularly fast, what we're doing down here. I guess it's not slow, but it doesn't scale well. It does seem like our memory's dropping down. I think, which is maybe a good sign. Wait an hour. Sorry, Windows. This is giving me day 4 vibes, where it just took like 60 minutes and it still didn't get an answer. We populated the seeds quite quickly, reasonably quickly, and then we've got to go through them all. And because there's like, I'd say, it's undoubtedly there's hundreds of millions, if not billions, of seeds in there. It just takes a while to process them all. What would be quite interesting is to console.writeLine seeds.length.count. So how many seeds are we actually working with? So if we did something like total seeds, and we pop that in there, seeds.count. This has been running for almost 5 minutes now. I kind of want to exit it. It's too slow. Yeah, it could just be about to finish, but it could well just be another hour. So I'm going to stop it now. Okay, let's just run this and just see how many total seeds we have. I kind of wish I'd done this bit in the populate database. This is doing the thing where it balks. This bit in the populate database, so we didn't have to keep doing this every time. Why don't you give me output? Have I just broken everything? Oh no, here we go. 0, 2. Yeah, see, so if we didn't have to do this part, if we'd already put them in the database, then that would be pretty useful. I might actually take this and add it to my importer. Let's just see how many seeds we got. Okay. So that is 1.6 billion seeds. 1.6 billion seeds. Let's 1.6. Wait. Let's take this number. Seconds in days. Okay, so if it took 1 second to process each seed, it would take 18,000 days. Let's change that to months. It takes 611 months. It would take 50 years. Okay, I'm glad I stopped that when I did. Now, each seed, how fast is each seed going to be processed is the question. It's going to be processed pretty quickly. It's going to be less than a second. But those kind of speeds is crazy. 50 years for this to complete. Windows, it will have had to have been updated by then. That I can't keep providing the updates for 50 years. Okay. This is inefficient. I'm going to have to go away and think about this. Just like day 4, I'm not able to solve part 2. We've got a solution here. We just don't have enough time to run the solution. There's not enough time. I'm not waiting till I'm in my 70s or 80s to get the result. Oh, you finally solved Advent of Code 2023. We did part 1. I'm really happy with that. Really happy with how fast that is. I'll go away and think about how we can make this a lot faster, because this is just a math problem now. That's all there is to it. Thank you for watching. Sorry you haven't solved part 2 again. I was hoping for this to be a lot quicker. It hasn't ended up being that, but hopefully you've enjoyed watching along, using the database, using C#, using different features of the language, and I will see you tomorrow for day 6.